Okay, this is our document that we created in our last video in InDesign, and I just want to quickly cover the interface of InDesign, and then we're going to hop to working with guides and rulers in InDesign. So this is the default layout for InDesign. If you're not looking at this, go to Window, Workspace, Essentials, and also Reset Essentials will help you with that. And now we see our default workspace. On the right hand side I have my CC libraries. I'm going to go ahead and pull that off and dock it with this little tablet right here. I have swatches, stroke, color, pages, layers, links, all the kind of basic stuff, and I'm going to leave those how they are because that's fine. On the left hand side I have my toolbar, just like every other Adobe piece of software, and we can select different tools. And on the top bar, this is like our properties panel in Illustrator. This is a context sensitive options panel. So as I change tools, you're going to see this top bar changes, and as I change selections, it will also change. So for instance, if I make a text box, I have some text in here, I have different selections up here that I can make where I can modify the font and the size and things like that. If I switch back to my selection tool and select this text box, I get different options up here that are referring to the transformations, like where it is on the page, etc. So that's important to keep in mind. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that this top bar will change based on context. So let's talk about making guides in InDesign. InDesign is really a guide-based piece of software, right? It's for laying things out. We can make posters in Illustrator, we can make images in Photoshop, but InDesign, the power of it really comes in its transmutability, its ability to shift and change with different content and different layouts and things like that. So we're going to basically be making content in other pieces of software, such as Photoshop and Illustrator, and pulling them into InDesign to then place and arrange. So let's talk a little bit about how guides work in InDesign, because it's just a little bit different than they do in Illustrator or Photoshop. So by default, we have our rulers on. If you don't see your rulers, go ahead and hit Command R or Control R. You can also go to View, Hide, and Show Rulers right here. By default, it's in the units of your document, and each ruler is independent, so I'm going to have to right-click this ruler and change it to inches, and right-click this ruler and change it to inches. So now I see 0 to 11 and 0 to 8.5 at the top. Now, placing guides works just like how you would think it does in Photoshop or in Illustrator, where we can drag out the guides and drop them, right? Okay, well, great, there's a guide, it looks wonderful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. But there's actually different contexts for guides in InDesign. If I drag this guide out like how I just did, and my cursor is over the page, it's making what's called a page guide. If I drag it to the pasteboard, it's making what's called a spread guide. Now the spread guide, as you can see, crosses over the whole page and into the pasteboard area, which is this gray non-used area. But if I move it back in here, it's only on the page. Now this seems like, okay, well that's not really that useful. Let's go ahead and switch to this document where I have two pages. So this is page 1 and this is page 2. They're exactly the same. Let's go ahead and drag a page guide out just to this left page. And here's a page guide just to this right page. And here's a spread guide that'll go across both of them. All right, so now you can see the use of this page versus spread guide. Guides can be modified numerically. I can select them. This document's on picas. Let me switch it over to inches really quick. I can select a guide, and up here I can modify its actual placement. So if I know, okay, this is an 11-inch page, if I want it at exactly halfway point, right, I'm going to need 5.5 inches, and I hit return, and now it's placed a guide there. I can select this guide and do the same thing here. So I can say, okay, I really want this at 1 inch. And I really want this one at, well, 3 inches is good, so I'll leave that there. So you can see how guides can shift and change based on their context, like where we're dragging it out, and also how we are selecting them and modifying their values up here.